Attending a post-secondary institution, especially university, can be a challenge for students living with a learning disability or an associated disorder such as ADHD. Why? Because it has been shown that students with disabilities generally use fewer strategies than others or use them inefficiently. Hi, my name is Tamara Malinoff. I'm a psychoeducator working in both the private and public sectors and collaborating with the Learning Disabilities Institute. Today I will explain how you can help your students use learning strategies to facilitate their transition to post-secondary education. What is a learning strategy? A learning strategy is a method used by students to help them complete a school task or activity more effectively. There are two types of strategies: cognitive strategies and metacognitive strategies. It is important to remember that these strategies are more effective when used together. Today we are going to focus particularly on the teaching of metacognitive strategies because this is where teachers can play a major role in helping students improve their learning experience. Explicitly teach students metacognitive strategies. Develop students' knowledge about the way they learn and the strategies they can use. There are three main types of strategies: planning, self-control, and evaluation. Planning, that's before the task. Your role as a teacher is to make sure that the students understand the purpose of the task at hand and of learning, to make them think about how they might approach the task, to activate their prior knowledge related to the task, to select appropriate strategies, and to tell them where they should be putting the most effort. For example, in art, students are asked to draw a self-portrait. So the question you can ask them are, what supplies do you need to draw the self-portrait? Have you done a self-portrait in the past were you satisfied with it? What did you learn from the examples I showed you earlier? Where could you start? Self-control, that's during the task. The emphasis is placed on the importance of students evaluating themselves during the task. This also includes self-awareness exercises that will enable them to have better control over the task. Using the same example, are the facial features you have drawn similar to your own features? Do you find it difficult? Is there anything you can change right now to make your self-portrait appear more natural? A tip for teachers might be to provide a memory aid or a checklist. Evaluation. This is after the task is completed. To assess the effectiveness of the chosen plan. Did your strategy work? Do you think you chose the best approach? If you had to do it again, would you do it differently? Are there any other techniques you would like to use? During explicit strategy instruction, start by asking the students questions. The purpose of this is for students to learn to ask themselves these questions. Model your own reasoning. Novice learners will often observe how expert learners think and behave. In other words, they will observe you, and your role as a teacher is to make the implicit processes explicit. For example, reveal your own thought processes. Verbalize your questions. For instance, what do I know about a problem like this? What are some of the problem-solving methods I've used before? Which ones were effective with this type of problem? The advantage of this approach is that it develops the metacognitive skills of the students without putting too much strain on their mental resources. For example, when solving a mathematical equation, you can start by presenting a completed exercise with the statement and solution, and then explain each step involved in developing the solution. And after this modeling, you can phase out one step after another to get students to undertake a partially completed equation. Avoid overloading their working memory. Help students expand their self-knowledge as learners by keeping them motivated. To do this, it is important to define the appropriate level of difficulty and to assign them tasks that do not overload their cognitive processes. Working memory is the key to learning, and its capacity is limited. So what can you do to avoid overloading it? Avoid giving too much information at once. Use structured planning models. Use as many examples as possible. Break down the operations into steps. Create stories to make links between several pieces of information. Regroup information into categories. Make the connection between new information and older information in long-term memory. Use diagrams and take notes on the board. Use visual aids. Encourage conversation about metacognition in the classroom. In addition to explicit instruction and modeling, classroom discussion can be used to develop students' metacognitive skills. The dialogue should be focused, guiding and supporting the conversation so that it is stimulating and builds on prior knowledge of the subject matter. Metacognition dialogue will allow each student to share their awareness of their own strategies, which can provide ideas to others. Teaching through dialogue teaches students to reason, argue, and explain. Use class debate or small group discussions to encourage an exchange of ideas among classmates. Develop self-directed learning skills. Provide guided experiences and gradually withdraw support as the student becomes increasingly more competent. Provide students with feedback early on and advise them on which strategies will work best for them. Students will become autonomous learners when they make their own choices, manage and organize their learning, and when they use metacognitive strategies in the process. Teaching metacognitive strategies has been proven to facilitate learning for students with learning disabilities or related disorders and has also been proven to be beneficial for all students.